o'clock, so we'll call this meeting to order. Call the roll, please.
Klein.
Here.
Kinsey.
Here.
Mossberg.
Here.
Parker. Logston.
Here. We have a quorum, so next item would be approval of minutes of regular meeting held December 13th, 2021.
Move that we approve the minutes from December 13, 2021.
Got a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Mossberg.
Yes.
Kinsey.
Yes.
Logston.
Yes.
Klein.
Yes. Go on to the next item was reports from staff. We've got some attachments in your packet to look at, and then item A would be city council report.
Well, we really, had the holidays and whatnot. I missed our last meeting, so I apologize for that interest. But I think the main thing that has kind of happened city-wise in the last few weeks, one, beginning of December, I can't remember if it was before or after, but we spent a lot of time working on water lines that were busted. It would have been right around the same time this meeting was happening, so that may have already been discussed. But kind of had a break from some of the committee work going through the holidays with some, schedules just weren't being coordinated. The council members will be, I think some of them will be participating in a budget workshop with the municipal league, learning about municipal budgets and that kind of thing. It'll be offered virtually as well as in person. Angela can probably tell you how many people we have attending that. We also, with that, are starting to get ready to start putting together the 2022-23 budget for all the city. I think those are the things that kind of have some bearing on how things are going up at the airport. The other thing that has been pretty active has been the pool committee to deal with finding the plans to move forward with the pool. The committee is going to met this morning, and then the Parks and Buildings Committee meeting met this afternoon, and the City Council will be working, or will have an agenda item on Tuesday night to approve or authorize the business manager to go ahead and get a contract with an engineering firm that they've chosen. So that particular committee has been extremely active and has probably conducted most of the committee work that occurred in the city in the month of December and beginning of January so far. Angelica, I feel like I'm missing something. There's a lot of stuff that maybe Angelica can tell you where we're at in that process. The council did in the December meeting approve the audit from 2019-2020.
That's correct. I think we have, Shelley, 4 people attending the OML training, three or 4 people. The audit was finalized for 1920. I have visited a little bit with the State Auditor Inspector's Office regarding our petition audit. Still ongoing. It's been sitting in the review stages since they were here. I want to say last spring. It's been a little while since they were actually in Alva and on site, but I did get word that they are starting that final review process. So the auditor that did the audit, he wrote his report, his boss has looked at it, and now it's gone on to her boss, and so they're asking the final questions, but there were several audits in front of ours, essentially, so we're just waiting for that. I did want to point out, I know we don't generally discuss the financial statements in the meeting, but I did want to point out just a couple items. If you'll notice, our cash balance from the pooled cash piece looks really low. That's a result of us making the payments for the apron work, and we have not been reimbursed from the FAA yet. I'm working with Park Hill. They're assisting us. We're trying to get Shelley and I access to Delphi, which is the system where we submit the grants for reimbursement. I'm doing both Shelley and I so that right now, Joe Don was the only one that had that access previously, and it's kind of taking a lot of work to get that access back, granted back, and moved over to me. So I'm going to have both her and I on there, so we've got a backup in the event that there would be a change there. And so once we, you can see on our year-to-date, if you look on page 3, you can see that we've expended about $380,000 in expenses already, and so that will be reimbursed back to our account. And so as we work through that, we also should then be able to file for our CARES funding. We've had that out there for a while, but once we get that access set up and get it moved forward, then that will allow us to replenish that cash supply. So we don't generally talk about it, but I wanted to point out that that was there so that you guys could be aware of it. I didn't want it to be a surprise to anyone. And then
I will add, Angela, you talked about the CARES funding. I couldn't hear everything she said, but we did get word that the federal government was trying to determine how they would want municipalities to calculate a revenue loss, and because that's one of the things that you can use the ARPA funds for. They did come out and determine that there's going to be a kind of like on your taxes, you get a standard deduction, but with this, it's a standard revenue loss. So anybody that had a loss of $10 million or less is going to be considered to be allowed to apply their ARPA funds to a revenue loss, which the ARPA funds will apply to the revenue loss, and thereby will lift all the other restrictions on how those funds are used. Because once you use it for the revenue loss, you don't have to have any other of the designated uses necessarily for those funds. So it kind of loosens up the restrictions. It absolutely loosens up the restrictions on Alva, as we were slated to get 800,000-ish, which we've already received about half of that.
yes, that's correct. The other, I will say that when Toby was here with Park Hill doing the final inspection on the apron project, he did indicate that there would potentially be some more allocations back to the airport specifically for additional ARPA funds. They're still figuring that process out, but it may be that it would be some additional monies back to us, like when we're stacking our monies in there, that they would potentially look at that.
We're also fully anticipating some transportation dollars from the infrastructure bill, but I'm just not sure how much at this time, specifically for the airport.
And then the final thing that I have was, I know, Paul, you have asked a couple of different times about crack sealing. The street department, barring anything else happening and weather permitting, they're planning to be here on Monday the 17th to start looking at that and start working on that so we can get the access roads in a little bit better shape.
I noticed there was no deposit in December on oil income. Did we not receive anything, or just not get?
Paul, I would have to go look at that specifically. I did do a quick search and I couldn't find that we had received anything, but that was on Friday, and so I need to do a little bit further in-depth research to see if it just got allocated to the wrong, if it got put in the wrong account, because that's happened a couple of times, and we've had a little bit of changeover in the front office, so I will follow up on that for sure. But I did notice that and just did a quick search and wasn't able to find it within, about 20 minutes search, so I'll find out what happened there.
I noticed, looking down through this, at the halfway mark to our fiscal year, we seem to be pretty well much on budget, except at salaries. Are we anticipating spending at the same rate the next 6 months like we have the past 6 months?
I would anticipate that we are right now. Derek, our part-time help, we had one who left, and I think the hours, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the hours weren't quite working with the schedule that he had, and then we have one who their hours have been cut back drastically, so we've had substantial amount of overtime that we really weren't anticipating, or maybe I should say we were hoping that we wouldn't have. We have advertised again for more part-time help, and we'll continue to see what we can get there, but we may have to look at a budget adjustment there to address that. And it may be looking, potentially it may be a full-time person instead of some part-time people. That may be a better incentive. I don't know. I know we've had some of those conversations before, but it would maybe be something we could put on the agenda for some further discussion next month if you'd like to see that. Would you want to have some discussion on what that looks like next month, Dale?
Yeah, I think probably it'd be a good idea.
Okay.
We're kind of off on our figures.
Okay.
And we get an idea of, how we want to change make adjustments to the budget.
Well, and when we started the budgeting process and we're putting all that in place, we did not anticipate the CIA designation that we would get, the increase in traffic that we would have, so we've been a lot busier than what we originally intended.
What we budgeted for fuel, we're about to max that out at the 6 month
Yes,
mark, so.
yes.
Yeah, and we may have to look at that, adjusting that
As
part
well.
of the budget as well, so, yeah, I think it'd be a good idea
Okay, I'll put that
to
on.
look at that. Okay, any questions on the city council report? If not, we'll go on to the manager's report.
The fuel sales were pretty steady again in December. We were just finishing up the apron expansion, and the runway lights were fixed towards the that last week of, well, they weren't fixed, they were halfway fixed that last week of December. So we've got 4,100 feet of runway lights with the 900 foot threshold on one side. So, but that didn't really deter too much traffic. We had a lot of avgas sales compared to normal, so we were still at a total of $23,924. So that was still a pretty good month. Brandon Farney, the CFI based here, he's been pretty busy with several students. They're burning a lot of fuel, so that's good for him and good for us. So he's got two that passed their check rides this month, and he's got another one, and he's getting a lot of t-shirts up there. So when it comes to the runway lines, after this final inspection on the apron expansion, we went around and we keyed the lights to see where the taxi lights stopped working, and they came around the east side, came up north, but they stopped right as the concrete starts to taper over to the gold green. So they kind of figured out, they think it's within 100 feet of the package where the lights are, where the threshold is they think it's within that 100 feet, so, they're not guaranteeing it, but they think that's kind of where the issue lies, so, might not be too much more to get it fixed, but, that's where we stand on the runway lines so far. The gas truck, I took to Ranger Automotive. It just wasn't running, the pump wasn't going, so I took it in. And at first I didn't have an estimated timeline on the return or what it might cost, but I called this morning. If the carb kit comes in this week, we should have the truck back next week. He's got the exhaust replaced, vacuum leaks located and fixed, the timing set. Says it runs great while it's warm, but doesn't want to run really when it's cold, so hoping that when the carb kit comes in and gets rebuilt, that it'll be good to go.
Are you putting any gas in that? Okay.
No, but that's one of the things he was asking. I was like, no, we're not. We did put a little bit in it, just one point in time, just to see, but we normally just put regular unleaded. The Jet A truck, I had to put 2 new batteries on it. They were old, so they were just going down, especially with cold weather. Just wasn't starting. Then they had to replace the engine block heater. It wasn't heating up the antifreeze, so I replaced it, and it starts up. It started right up whenever it was really cold, so I detached the batwing mower on the big tractor and attached the dozer blade. Luckily, it didn't snow or anything like that, so I didn't have to use that. It's kind of nice. But it's attached and ready if it does. I did move some dirt where they said the grass and everything was built up to where the water wouldn't drain on the new concrete panels they replaced, so I moved some of that, and then took the small tractor with the bucket and filled some holes out there where some animals had made some holes. The green car, the green Buick, batteries were dead after sitting during the cold snap, so I had to jump start it, jump back. One of the guys that overnighted it in the 172, he took it for a couple of days, didn't have any issues with it. So he saw that it was kind of dusty, so he washed it for us. The white courtesy car, the check engine light came on. I got it started and going and ready for the guys that came Friday. The check engine light wasn't on. They brought it back Sunday. Check engine light was on and the low oil light was on. So Jason checked the oil and it was barely showing up on the dipstick. So I don't know. I put some oil in it. Check engine light's still on. The low oil obviously isn't on, but so I'm just going to take it to K&S and see. I'll get the oil changed in just since it was so low and see if they can't see anything on it. So that's been one of the biggest issues the past couple months, is just everything falling apart. So since we've been spending money on runway lines and getting those to fix, I haven't got back with Northwest Electric on the start back on the 220, just kind of let things settle down, even though that's part of the budget, getting that purchased and going, is just a lot of stuff that costs money, so I was just trying to slow things down and see where we stand. That's all I got. Oh, actually, Toby did say on the AWAS program, the Oklahoma Aeronautics Commission has an AWAS program that they're going to replace and update old AWAS, and we are on that list. So, what do you say about sometime this year, maybe?
He thought towards the end of their fiscal year.
He said to hold off on anything that needs fixed, but we already spent money on that. So. It's a little too late.
Anybody have any questions for the airport manager? If not, we'll go on. I'm going to swap around a couple items here in the next items. Before we go into executive session, we'll skip down to number 9, remarks and inquiries by citizens. Any citizens have anything that they want to bring up? If not, we'll go on to back up to item 6, and we'll discuss and action to enter executive session pursuant to 25 OS 307B1 to discuss and evaluate the airport manager. I need a motion. Second.
Second.
Okay. Call the roll.
Kinsey,
Yes?
Klein,
Yes.
Mossberg,
Yes.
Logston.